want to encourage people that they don't have to wait to arrive at a certain destination in their life to experience the joy and the peace and the satisfaction that they're hoping those things will provide.
Welcome to Navigation and Discovery with Cameron Singh. On today's podcast, we have special guest Nick Nilson on the podcast, and we're talking about his newest book, You Can Live the Dream, Trading Disappointment and Discontentment for Peace, Joy, and Fulfillment. To tell you a little bit about who Nick Nilson is an associate pastor at Lakewood Church. His role includes serving on Lakewood's teaching team, as well as giving leadership to the health, culture, and development of Lakewood staff and ministry teams. Nick also spends his time consulting and speaking both nationally and around the world, coaching and investing in teams within the church, marketplace, and beyond. His authenticity, charisma, and relatable testimony has given him the opportunity to help people realize their full God-given potential in every area of their lives. Nick is happily married to his wife, Summer, and they pastor at Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas, where they also reside with their children, Haven and Denver, along with their spoiled dog, Harley. You're going to enjoy this awesome podcast that we had with Nick, talking about how you can live the dream. Thank you so much for tuning in, and really hope you enjoy this episode with Nick Nilson. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for being on the podcast and saying yes. It is an honor to meet you and get to know you more. And I really love the message of this new book that you came out with. And congratulations on the release of your first book.
Thank you, Cameron. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. So honored, to share the space with you and your listeners. I love and respect what you do. Anyone who carves out space like you do, taking time and energy, you sacrifice other things to invest into people and encourage people, I'm a fan of. So honored and pumped to be with you, man.
Well, I really enjoy meeting new people and different people. And so before we start diving into your book, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Sure. I'm a Midwest kid, so I grew up in Beloit, Wisconsin. It's a small city right on the state line of Illinois and Wisconsin. Great parents, did the best they could with what they had. My parents were actually divorced though when I was 3 years old. My dad continued his career, worked in a paper plant there in the city, hardworking guy. My mom worked in advertisement there in local TV and radio, owned her own advertising business. 5 siblings. I have 5 siblings I grew up with, some half brothers and sisters, full and step in there as well. So it's just an incredible collection of brothers and sisters that I grew up around. I'm a Bear fan, Cam. So diehard Chicago Bear fan. Still loyal, even though I've moved now and I reside in Houston, Texas. I've been here for about 16 years, and I've worked with Lakewood Church as a youth and young adult pastor, and now I'm serving in an associate pastor role, serving Pastor Joel Osteen in any way possible, and I just love what I get to do. Little dog named Harley, wife named Summer. We've been married now for 17. No, I'm sorry, not 17. I'm looking at my job stuff. 20 years we're coming on next year. 20 years of being married in June. 2 beautiful kids, Haven and Denver. Haven 17, Denver is 12. So that's my tribe. That's a snapshot of, who I am and where I'm at now.
Well, awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about your book. So for those listening, Nick just recently came out with a book, You Can Live the Dream, Trading Disappointment and Discontentment for Peace, Joy, and Fulfillment. Nick, when I heard about this book and saw it on social media, I was like, I need to get to know you more because this is exactly what I love talking about, especially on this podcast. And I'm a huge champion of dreaming, even though there's disappointment, discontentment. So tell us a little bit about the heart of this book, You Can Live the Dream, and what made you want to write a book on this topic?
Sure. Well, I felt like I was coming across a lot of people in my journey in my life who were struggling, struggling with their place in their career, struggling with where they were relationally, their relationship status, whether they were single or divorced or just not where they wanted to be, and just people who are going through tough things. And for me, I felt like I was in a lot of conversations of people waiting to reach certain destinations before they could experience peace and joy and satisfaction and fulfillment. And obviously, it's not a bad thing to desire those things. We all desire those things, right? And we all look to discover those in certain places and certain milestone moments and destinations. But I just felt like the more I explored my faith, the more I explored the Bible, the more I looked back even in my journey, I just I just came up and decided to just, you know what, I want to encourage people that they don't have to wait to arrive at a certain destination in their life to experience the joy and the peace and the satisfaction that they're hoping those things will provide. You don't have to wait until you get to the corner office or get married or have kids in the big house and the picket fence or the Tesla in the driveway.
Hmm.
You can experience those things, the peace and satisfaction and joy. You can experience that right now. You don't have to limit your dream to a destination. And I think, Cam, that starts with a change of perspective. And I think perspective is so powerful. And Jesus gives us this opportunity to see our lives through a whole different perspective. And that's through a perspective of faith. And it doesn't mean that it's easy, but it means it's possible. And I believe ultimately it's best. It's the best way to live our lives and to allow our faith to inform us about every season of our lives. And again, you don't have to limit your dream to a destination. You can experience what you think the dream is going to provide you right now.
Yeah, I really like that chapter where you start off the book really talking about really choosing that right perspective. And a lot of that really what it has to do with is mindset. And I feel mindset is really foundational to really have that right perspective when we're talking about dreaming and your book really you can live the dream. So can you unpack this for us and talk about mindset a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think our mindset, I think that, again, to me it comes down to our perspective. What are we fixing our focus on?
Mhm.
And I think oftentimes what eliminates or what steals our joy and our contentment and our happiness and our peace is struggles and hardships and things we're facing. And I think oftentimes we can easily focus on the problems and the giants and the mountains in our life. And I think faith isn't ignoring them, faith is looking beyond them. And I think when you talk about mindset and perspective, I think it's really what we're choosing to focus on throughout the day. It's choosing what we're focusing on throughout the season of our life. And I'm a believer, and I have experienced through very difficult things that I've gone through in my life that there's great purpose even in the hardest seasons,
Mhm.
and deep purpose in pain and obstacles. There's opportunity in obstacles that if we would choose the right perspective, we could pull out and we could embrace, and we can actually see that difficult times can be actually times that deeply equip us for our future and for the things that are in front of us, the purpose and the destiny that we each have. Um, the hard times often equip us to sustain those. And I talk about that and I unpack that. And I just think that that's part of it is, seeing our problems through a unique set of faith lenses and looking at difficulties. I've learned this, Cam, and I've seen this with people that I've seen be very successful, and not just from a career perspective, but they have a deep amount of contentment and peace and joy. And they carry themselves with a deep sense of humility, gratitude, treat people great, like people that we would deem to be great individuals. I feel like they've learned to see their problems through a unique set of faith lenses. They've looked at issues and struggles with a unique perspective, choosing to look at them differently. And I think that's what separates people who accomplish a lot and do very significant things and experience deep amount of peace is people who choose to have a unique perspective on those.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it gets difficult, especially when someone gives it a go at a dream or something of that nature. They think, this is the direction I want to go. whatever that might be, for a career, for timeline to get married, or whatever that might be. And then it doesn't happen, or they face that roadblock and they face that disappointment and discontentment. And they feel like, that how are they going to get through this? So, what would you say on how the people that might be in that disappointment and discontentment, how do you get through that to continue, I guess, to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that you can still continue to dream and live that dream?
Yeah, I think a big thing is realizing, number one, that there isn't a wasted season. I think when you begin to take a step towards your dream, you apply for the job, or you take a big leap of faith to go after something that you feel is in your heart, to pursue business, starting a career, whatever it may be. I think it's realizing that each season is packed with hidden, I would say, disguised um, toolkits, disguised, I would say, hidden gifts that you can discover even in the hardest times. I mean, I've worked six or seven different jobs from the time I was, 15, 16 to the time I, went into college and started pastoring. And I feel like each one of those jobs, busboy to corn detasseling to all, I mean, just random things, right? I was a cart pusher at Walmart. And like all these things I could look at and dread them when I was in the moment, but I could also just go, okay, what about this job is equipping me for what's next? And as I look back, Cam, I can see that every stop along the way, every job that I had, whether it was something I learned from my manager, whether it was something God taught me about my attitude, whether it was how to communicate to people, whether it was how to plan, how to organize, I can look back on every stop along the way and see that they were unique things that prepared me and equipped me for what I'm doing now. And I think if we would just, as tough as our jobs may be, we may hate our manager or employer, we may not be satisfied with where we are right now in the quote unquote journey. But I think if we change our perspective and go, you know what? Yes, there's something huge in front of you, but there's also something huge right now that you can learn, that God may be teaching you or equipping you with, that will sustain the dream when it comes. And so I'm just a big believer in that there's never a wasted season. There's never a wasted job. There's never a wasted day. The Bible says that today is the day that the Lord has made. I'll rejoice and be glad in it. I don't have to rejoice and be glad because of it,
Mm.
but I can rejoice and be glad in it, come in it with great expectation, because there's deep purpose in it. If God made it, there's purpose in it, and I want to discover it. So it's just, I think having that perspective again, is it easy? No,
No.
it's difficult. And that's, I think, the biggest thing is, when you see my book title, You Can Live the Dream, it's like, is this a book about like life being easy and
Mhm.
prosperity? Absolutely not. It's about how to handle and walk through tough times, walk through the seasons that you can look around and go, this isn't what I planned on.
Mhm.
I didn't anticipate this setback. I didn't anticipate this doctor's report. Well, how do you live the dream now? How do you have the right perspective and walk through those seasons of difficulty now? So that would be my thought on that.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't think I ever realized, especially when I was in those, I guess, seasons, I would call it, of disappointment, where you question, is this where I'm supposed to be, or this might I might not be in the right place. But looking back now, those seasons were actually had to happen in order to
Mm,
bring me to where I am today. And if those seasons did not happen, the next thing would have never came.
mm. That's so good. It's so
Yeah,
good. You're so right.
yeah. Yep. One of the chapters that you talked about was "Do It Afraid," and that really hit home for me. Right before we started recording, I mentioned I'm referencing a lot of that in my book currently that I'm writing. Doing It Afraid is that was a really big part of my life, and it really hit home for me. Um, but I think oftentimes there's a lot of discouragement that comes with not taking that risk to do that next thing, not taking or playing it safe. So how does someone get to doing it afraid?
Yeah. Well, like you said, I think, all of us have things in us that we want to get after. And if you don't, I want to encourage every listener to know that God has shaped you for a purpose to do something significant with your life. You're not an accident. You have unique things inside of you that no one else has. When God made you, he broke the mold. There's no one else on this planet like you that can be you, that can do the things you can do. And I think that's the foundational thought that I hope people walk away with today. But also when you know that and you feel and you sense and you're aware that there's greatness in front of you because God's got a purpose for your life, when you begin to allow that to sort of germinate and grow inside of you, and you feel like a clear compelling to chase something, like you said, whether it's trying out for a team, it's pursuing a career, start a business, take that leap of faith, you could say. I would rephrase that and encourage people to take a step of faith. I think sometimes people are waiting for the perfect condition or the perfect time. But Ecclesiastes says, if you wait for the perfect time to plant, if you wait for the perfect time to harvest, that time will never come. You know, like if you wait on rain to plant, it's just not going to happen. And so I think in essence, there's never going to be a perfect time when you just feel so perfectly at peace and all the conditions around are adding up perfectly. Now, I'm not saying you don't strategize and you don't use wisdom, but I just think if you wait until fear is completely gone before you step out and begin to pursue your dream, you're going to wait forever. All of us have had to stare fear in the face and take a step. And I would say take a step in faith. The Bible says that the Lord directs the steps of the righteous, not the stance. So God oftentimes, I believe, Cam, is waiting for us to take the step towards the thing he's put in our hearts to go after. And we're waiting for God to almost like nudge us or push us or bring this incredible sign that's overwhelming. But if all those things happen, why have faith? Like where's the room for faith? And I think God's desire is for us to grow in our faith, to trust him, to take that step so then he can come in and do the supernatural and open doors and connect us to the right people. I remember, and I tell this story in my book, but I went skydiving with some friends when I was in college. And we went there to get trained. None of us had been skydiving, but in Chicago, you have to jump with an instructor 2 times or 3 times before you can jump alone. So we go there, we get paired up with our instructor. We're excited, anxious, nervous. We get trained on everything we need to know about the jump. So we go in this airplane, we get to 14,000 feet, door opens. It gets real. And my buddies jump out and I'm watching them free fall. And it's just, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I'm jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. The door is, the door is open. I get up to the entrance or the opening, and the instructor's on my back. And I get to the edge, man, and I am so reluctant. I'm like, I'm not going to do this. This is crazy. I'm looking down at the ground. It's just 14,000 feet. I'm above the clouds. My hands are sweating, and he can feel my reluctancy. And he leans over my shoulder and he whispers, he says, Nick, you just got to do it afraid. And then without hesitation, our momentum carried us. We fly out and we just free fall for a minute. And I remember during the free fall, I forgot all the training. I was so overwhelmed. I didn't know, I didn't remember my name at that point. Well, all of a sudden the instructor starts tapping me on my wrist, showing me the altitude, puts my hand on the ripcord, shows me where to pull the ripcord. All of a sudden he starts guiding me through the process. Long story short, the chute opens, beautiful view of Chicago. We land safely. But the point is, that was an unbelievable experience. One of the best experiences of my life. So thrilling. So it was phenomenal. But it all began with a scary step. And I had to do it afraid. And when I did it, I had someone who had my back, leading, guiding, showing me where to go, what to pull, at what point to land, to put my feet out. Like he guided me all the way through. And I think that's a great principle when you're thinking about your dream, is you got to take it a step afraid. And when you do, God's going to bring the right people in your path. He's going to lead you. He's going to guide you. He's going to give you the wisdom you need at the right time. I just think so many of us, we're unaware of what we're full of and what we're capable of and equipped with. But it's not until we step out do we see some of those things come to the surface? And I just believe that when you do, in faith, you're going to discover those things.
Yeah, that's awesome, Nick. I think also in addition to this, it's in order to dream and truly live out that dream, you need the right people around you.
Mm,
And that's really helped me because I think early on, especially I think in my late teens, I didn't have the right people around me in order to um, really go in the direction that I wanted to go in. And so talk a little bit about that, about the people that we surround ourselves with and how essential is that as in our dreaming.
yeah, it's huge. I mean, I would call it our dream team, and I think everyone needs a dream team.
Yeah.
A group of people around us that will speak life into our dreams. That, I mean, just as well as I do, so many people who have been talked out of their dream by a few people around them. And, whether it was a coach or a teacher or good friends, um, there's just so many negativity out there, so many negative voices. And I think it's easy to buy into those lies, and those never lies that have been spoken over our lives by important people. Could be your family, could be parents. And I just think at some point you have to evaluate the environment you're in. It's like we all have seeds, and those seeds are packed with a blueprint to develop into something. But those seeds cannot take root, they cannot germinate, they cannot grow and produce unless they're planted in good soil. And I think we have to look at our lives like that and our dreams like that, that our dreams oftentimes are restricted and limited because we're in a bad environment, and that seed can't take root and grow and flourish. And
Mhm.
so I would just encourage people to just take a good look around at who's in your life that you respect, that you love, that are championing your dream, that are also speaking truth in love.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we need a team around us. Like my wife is on my dream team, and she loves me so much to tell me the truth. you
Mhm.
know i I she, I think people sometimes, we all have blind spots, and I think we need to have people who love us enough to say, hey, you're acting out of character here, or this may not be the best step. This is what I'm thinking and seeing and evaluating. But those people love you, right? And they love you enough to tell you the truth. And so I just think choosing your circle wisely is important. And I think so many people have been distracted and their dreams have been delayed simply because of the environment they surround themselves with. And some environments you can't control. It's like
Mm.
you can't control maybe who you're next to in your cubicle or who you share a locker next to. But I'm talking about the people you can choose, right? Who you hanging out with at lunch at work? Who are you driving in and commuting with? Who are you spending time with after work? Where are you going on Friday nights to spend your time? I think it's those relationships that are critical. And I just say, choose those wisely. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Yeah, that's true. I saw a social media post from you were on his podcast, Pastor Chad Veach. He's like, you want to be a knucklehead? Hang out with knuckleheads.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It is very, very true.
Yeah. I think yeah, surrounding yourself with the right people really makes a huge difference. But I think another element of it is that self-reflection and self-awareness and staying true to who you are. And so what role does that play, the self-reflection and self-awareness in that process of really finding that peace, joy, and fulfillment that you
Yeah.
talk
No, that's good. I think all of us, when I think about self awareness and reflection, I think about evaluating where I am in my journey, the progress that I've made. Am I growing? Am I developing? Am I becoming the person that I've, aspire to be? Am I growing into being the man that God's called me to be? And when I ask those questions, I look at my progress and I look at what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Where am I failing? Where am I doing well in? And I just think a lot of people get stuck. Um, Looking at their failures and their mistakes. I think a lot
about?
of people get stuck on all the things they have left to accomplish, and they overlook the power of celebrating the good things along the way, celebrating your progress. Whether that's progress in your career, it's progress personally in your development and your internal growth. But I just think for me, it's very, very important to celebrate the good on the way to great. And it's easy for all of us overachievers to look at what's not checked on the list,
Yeah.
all the degrees we want to aspire to achieve and to get and to attain, the places in the company we want to go. And those are great. I think it's great to want to be excellent and to work hard and to be disciplined and to have goals and have a vision. But I just think it's important to stop along the way and celebrate. I think even when you look at the story of creation, I think God kind of lays out this pattern for us that's very powerful. Day
Mhm.
one, he creates and he says it's good. Day two, he creates more and he says it's good. Now, is creation complete? No. It's still an unfinished product. His work is not done, but he's stopping along the way to say, you know what? That's pretty good.
Mm.
We're not done yet, and there's more to come. But I'm not going to be discontent with where I am because I have more to do. I'm going to celebrate what's already been done, and I think there's power in gratitude. There's power in recognizing what has been accomplished, where we have grown. So it's like maybe you want to get off all sugars, and you've eaten Oreo, packs every day. It's like, hey, maybe you didn't crush the whole pack of Oreos. Maybe you crushed half of it. And a lot of people go, oh man, I still ate the Oreos. Well, look, you're half better.
Mhm.
Like it's choosing the right perspective on our growth, even like that to me is even important. Celebrating the good on the way to great.
Yeah, that's so good, Nick. Wanted to touch on one more thing is, there are people that are listening and they're just stuck. They're dissatisfied with their life and they just don't see a way through it. It's just one thing after another coming their way. So what advice would you provide to someone that is in that is stuck, they're dissatisfied, and how do they move toward really seeking that path towards that greater fulfillment where we're
Yeah.
talking about peace and joy?
Yeah. I think, well, I mean, a lot of it really depends, Cam, I think on what's the cause of them being stuck. What would they say is the reason? I mean, I think a lot of people get stuck because they can't get over their past and their mistakes that they've made. They haven't learned to let go
Mm,
of what went wrong, the choices maybe that they have made, and so they find themselves kind of stuck in this place, not believing that they deserve good things in front of them because of what they've committed. Whether it's a crime. I mean, we do prison ministry a lot, and I find that a lot with people who they've done something wrong, but that doesn't define who you are. Your value comes from God. It doesn't come from what you do. And I think a lot of people feel stuck because either they don't feel qualified to move ahead, they don't feel like they're worthy of good things and big dreams in front of them, and they feel limited because of their mistakes. And I would just say that the Bible says where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. In other words, there's nothing that you can do that can trump the grace of God.
mhm,
And I just think we have to allow ourselves to be washed over by grace. We have to receive forgiveness and we have to move forward. And I've just seen when people understand grace and how much God loves them and how goodness and mercy is actually chasing them down, and nothing that they've done in the past disqualifies them for the good things that's in front of them. That's a game changer for many people. And
mm,
that propels people forward to go, you know what? I'm gonna let go. And I'm gonna forget, I'm gonna let go of the past, what did or didn't work out, and I'm gonna move forward to the things that God has for me, and I'm gonna embrace His grace. I'm gonna allow it to transform me, and I'm gonna keep moving forward.
mhm. And I think there's another group of listeners as well is, things are going well. They're dreaming, they're living the dream. And so I'm very open about my faith on this podcast and also in my book. And I think nowadays I'm getting a lot of questions about my faith and what that is all about. And I think even though you are living that dream, everything's going well, and you're that successful person, successful leader, there's still a missing puzzle
Mm,
There's still that emptiness. And I felt this before too when I left faith and came back to faith. Is that you feel that sense of emptiness, like you're not complete. And I
mhm.
think nowadays I'm getting a lot of questions of people are seeking out what faith is all about, what spirituality mean. So as some of our listeners are possibly exploring that,
Sure.
what should they what question should they be asking, when they're exploring faith?
No, it's so good. I think, why am I alive? What is my purpose? I think
Mhm,
those are questions people are already asking. It's an innate question that we all have. What's my purpose? Why have I been created? Why do I exist? And I think when you ponder those, I pondered those when I was 18, and I led my life up into that point thinking that, faith was for everyone else. I was a good person, felt like if I did good things, went to church on Easter, like check the box, I'm good. And I just feel like I was missing out. I know I was missing out on this incredible relationship with God that Jesus has offered us to walk in, to experience. And I think, we can search in our lives, and I did, for fulfillment and satisfaction in money, in partying, sex, career, stuff, trips, vacations, big homes, you name it, drugs, alcohol, pills. There's so many things people pursue now for satisfaction and fulfillment and peace. But those things may be good in the moment, but they can't satisfy your soul. And I think Jesus offers us true fulfillment in a
mhm,
relationship with him. And that's where you find true satisfaction and peace and fulfillment for your soul. That's where the abundant life comes in that John 10:10 describes. Is the thief came to steal, kill, and destroy. Jesus said, I've come to give you life, and life to the fullest, both in this world and the one to come. And I just think when you step into that relationship, I'm a living testimony of that peace. I live from peace now. I live from a place of purpose now and satisfaction and contentment. So if I change jobs or I change homes or relationships come and go in my life, I'm not looking to external sources to provide me peace, contentment, joy, and satisfaction. Right? I'm coming into my life from a place of peace and
mhm.
purpose and freedom. And so I think that's the power. That's the game changer that a relationship with God provides every person and is available to every person.
Mm, awesome. Um, well, one final question. I'd like to actually know a little bit more of your story. Could you share maybe just a short Cliff Notes version of how your story of living the dream and how that journey has been?
Yeah, well, I think it starts a part of it for me, even with the book, is talking about how I grew up. As I mentioned before, grew up not knowing, having a faith of my own, and partied a lot. Thought that that would make me happy. Didn't. Pursued football. Thought it was the dream for me. Worked hard at it growing up as a kid. My dad was my coach. Um, and third game of the season, I tore my ACL, and at that moment, I had a full ride scholarship and had verbally committed to Michigan State University. And I felt like in that moment, my dreams were crushed. They were gone. And I had just given my life to Christ about 3 or 4 months prior to that. So I was a young believer, now feeling like my dream is gone, wasted, destroyed, in shambles. And it was hard. I didn't know how to handle it, in many ways. But I clung to my faith. I had good people around me. I had a dream team speaking life over me. And by the grace of God, I kept moving forward. And it was interesting, Cam, during that season where I was doing rehab, my heart slowly changed from football to becoming a pastor. It was almost like God did this. He allowed that hurt and that storm in my life. He didn't cause it, but he allowed it, and he used it to do a work in my heart, to change my desires from what I thought I wanted to do for my life to what I was made to do.
Mm,
And so I began to pursue ministry out of that storm. That storm actually carried me and pushed me and propelled me to something new that I was made to do. Still had the opportunity to play football, but I just pursued becoming a pastor. And from there, just learned really quickly in my journey as a 17, 18-year-old that there's deep purpose in pain, and that obstacles are actually can be great opportunity for growth. And so in hindsight, I can say, you know what? I'm living the dream. Doesn't mean everything is great, but I know that
Yeah.
there's meaning and purpose in everything. I know that where my peace and joy and contentment come from. I wouldn't be here had it not been for some storms in my life that have carried me to places that are beyond what I can think, ask, or imagine. It's amazing how God will use storms and use struggle and use pain in our lives to get us where we are today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for really writing this book. It's been I just got it a couple of days ago, so
Let's go.
it's been nice going through it, and it's really been hitting home this message. And I'm thankful that your book is doing well and that your message is really getting shared across the globe.
Oh, I appreciate it, Cam. And, that's my prayer is that, the right people would get it at the right time. Again, I believe it's a message for everyone, not just people who are of faith and in church, but all walks of life. And I've seen that. I've gotten incredible, just the feedback from people and how it's encouraged and help them. And it's a book that I think and I talk about margin, pace. I talk about, like you said, dream team and relationships, especially for
Mhm.
single people. I talk about letting go. All 13 chapters are very unique and specific. And I think that there's a lot of practical tools that can really help people.
Mhm. Well, awesome. Well, as we kind of come to a close, I wanted to lighten it up a little bit with lightning round of some fun questions here,
Let's go.
just so our listeners can get to know you more. We'll start off. What is your favorite snack?
Oh, favorite snack? I go peanut M&Ms all day. Snack.
Okay.
Yep. You can find me with peanut M&Ms.
All right. What are you reading today?
Tale of Three Kings. It's a
Interesting.
reread for me. It's a leadership book, a powerful book on authority, submission, leadership, humility. Um, just love it. It's a reread for me every year. So I'm in the middle of that right now.
Okay, cool. I'm writing that one down myself. Dead or alive, who would you like to have lunch with?
Oh my gosh. Martin Luther King Jr. Just what he did and how he blazed the trail. I just love to. Yeah, that would be an interesting, awesome conversation if I could
Yeah,
have that. If I could
that
have lunch with
definitely.
him, that would be. I mean, that's a hard question. I mean, there's millions of people that come to mind. He's
Yeah.
one of my heroes. If I think that would be fascinating.
No, awesome. What is one bucket list item that you would like to do next?
You know what? I'm getting to do it in like 3 or 4 weeks. I'll be in New York. I want to see the Statue of Liberty. Never seen it. Never been to Ellis Island. I'm taking my daughter. I'm going there to preach. If you're anywhere in the Connecticut area, Stamford, Connecticut, I'll be at a church there with JD Mueller speaking. I'd love to meet you. I'll be signing books there if you can make it. But I'm pumped to go there, Cam, because I get to go to the Statue of Liberty. I've never been there. My daughter's excited, so we're gonna check off some things off the bucket list while we're there.
That's really fun to do because one thing that I enjoyed in addition to visiting the Statue of Liberty is the view from there of Manhattan.
Pretty cool.
Oh yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm excited. I'll be with our friends at Connect Community. Actually, I just wanted to quick plug them because it's a fantastic church in Stamford, Connecticut called Connect Community with Pastor JD Mueller. I'll be with them. But yeah, pumped to see pumped to see Lady Liberty.
All right. Well, as we come to a close, Nick, thank you so much for being on this podcast and taking the time. Last words of encouragement to our listeners before we go.
Oh, last words. You can live the dream. That's what I would say. You can live the dream right now. You don't have to wait. You can experience peace, joy, contentment, fulfillment right now. Nothing externally has to change for you to experience these things on the inside of you. And I think um, as you lean into your faith and as you look to Jesus and you take on a perspective of faith, I think you can begin to see yourself become everything you've hoped and been designed to become and fulfill the things that God's put in your heart. So I'm a living testimony to that. Cam, I know you are a walking testimony of it too. And just want our listeners to know that they can experience that as well.
Well, awesome. Well, I almost forgot one more thing is how can people follow you and get a hold
Ah,
of the book?
nicknilson.com, I think, is the easiest. That there, all my platforms are on there, as well as spaces where you can buy the book. You can get the book on Amazon, anywhere books are sold. But nicknilson.com, all the information there. One stop shop.
Awesome. And for those listening on the podcast, we have dropped the link in the podcast description, where you can find where to purchase Nick Nilson's book, and also you can follow him on the social media platforms on there. And he has a fun social media platform, so feel definitely have to follow him.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Cam.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Nick. I really enjoyed getting to know you more and getting to know the heart of this new book. And congratulations again. And thank you for the work that you do.
Thanks, Cameron. I appreciate you and appreciate all that you do as well. Thanks for having me. I'm just honored to hang with you.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in on today's episode of Navigation and Discovery with Cameron Singh. We hope you enjoyed that podcast episode with Nick Nilson as he talked about his new book release, You Can Live the Dream. And if you would like to get a copy of the book and find out more about Nick Nilson, you can go to his website, nicknilson.com. And if you're listening to this on any podcast platform, the link is in the podcast description, nicknilson.com. Again, you can go to his website, nicknilson.com, and you can connect with him there and also find a way to get a copy of his new book or his first book, You Can Live the Dream. And if you want to connect with me, and you can go to CameronSingh.com. I have my book there as well, if you haven't gotten a copy yet, Navigation and Discovery. And it would be great if you really enjoyed this podcast episode, you can give us a rating on the platform that you're listening on, or provide any comments to get the message of this podcast spread to a broader audience. Well, we thank you so much for tuning in to Navigation and Discovery with Cameron Singh. Don't forget to subscribe so that you receive the notification when the next episode goes live. Thank you again for your support, and we'll catch you on the next episode.